Hi guys, so I promised to show you this video and this odd little palette. Some of you are intrigued. So why did I create these gaps? Well, you're going to see there's several reasons. So sometimes we hate those gaps in the middle, don't we? But I found them actually quite useful. I'm using a 1/2 inch long angled brush by Rosemary & Co. They've been around for years and I've been using them for years. They're beautiful brushes. So as you can see, they're just creating a little flower. This is just a swatch. This isn't a technique, by the way. This is just me showing you some swatching with these colours. Then I'm going to turn it. So because it's an angled brush, I always turn the one stroke to the way I want to load it. So because I've got the darker end on it now and that lovely lighter colour, then this is why I change it. Now this lovely lighter colour here is by Samantha Helen Essentials paints. I noticed this one was a particularly lovely colour, so just using that. This yellow and orange, this one that I picked in here, the yellow is really hard and the orange is quite soft, so I'm going to have to see how that plays out with the gapping, but it's okay so far. What happens is that gap will start to close, but what you can do is use something clean and sterile just to push the paints back up a little bit away from each other. If they start, these were both, the red and the orange here were both Superstar orange and red. They're beautiful colours, but they do spread quite quickly into each other. But again, just use a sterile item and push them away from each other if you want that gap. But ideally you probably should use a harder and a softer paint, not two softish ones. Here the yellow and the green. I think the yellow is quite firm, the green isn't soft, it isn't hard, but the yellow that I've used here is a neon paint. Again, it's by Samantha Helen at Essentials. I think in this case it's classed as a special effects paint, but I just wanted to try them. It's a lovely vibrant yellow, I have to say. The green is by Party Explosion. Love that green. It's not a very natural green and yellow, but it's beautiful and bright, so depending what you're trying to achieve. And then here I've got, I think that is a face paint candy blue, and the magenta that I've used in there is by Superstar. I think it's the Brilliant Magenta or something like that. I love that colour, it's lovely. So yeah, that's that one. And can you see I'm turning it to when I need it, when I'm using the angle brush, so I load correctly. And so far you're probably thinking, okay, well, we could do that with any old paints, and you are correct. So you know, why the gapping. But here again I used the paints just as you would a normal one stroke. I've got the darker colour on the outside, so in some respects if you were doing a rose, that isn't really the way you want to see it, because they can start looking like cabbages. Now I'm showing you here, I'm loading fully into the white, but it's heavy, it's very heavy on the white, but that's okay. If you wanted to lighten up your paint, you can do. And again, we all love a well with our whites when we're doing our detail, so that's going to come in handy for that as well when we need a bit more wet on the white. Now to me this is way too heavy, the white. It's not as natural as I'd like to see, but it has brought that rose back with some definition. So what I try and do is I turn the brush to the sharper angle and just dip in it as if it was a detail brush. So you've just got the edge, the tip of the brush with the white, and that well allows you to do it because you're escaping the whole of the white because you've got this gap. So another reason why this gap is particularly useful. Can you see there? I haven't changed the brush, so I was getting some of the green into the red, but look what it does. It just gives you the ability to have white edges. Again, like I said to you, this isn't a design, this is just pure swatching. And there I've got the gap, and the brush is hitting the solid paint and the watered down version, so this can give you a diluted effect, almost like what everyone's calling ghosting, but it just gives you that softer look. Again, look at me, I'm going into the empty area, getting the solid on the edge of the brush, and then what happens is you're getting the lighter colour in the middle. So I've reversed it, so the lighter's coming down in the middle. That was a little bit more solid because I think there was just a little bit the white had gone down into the bristles. Now I'm using the green and the yellow, just hitting that look, and then if you want to change it up, you can get that lighter variation of paints, the lighter tones, because of that gapping in the middle with the mix that you get down the middle, almost like a lime green. Normally you'd have to go to a completely separate paint for this, so I'm all about trying to save people who follow me or my students money. I'm showing you how this can be done. So now this is where it comes into play. That gap, I've got a detailed brush, one of them that's in my set, the lovely Rosemary & Co brushes. That's the Evergreen Pointed Round number 2. Beautiful brushes that just stay stabilised forever if you look after them. And look, I've now got this lovely lilac purple out of that magenta and that pale blue. Can you see? You can see the lilac in the middle, this lilac-y purple, which is like a lot like La La Land that you get from Superstar. That's how I liken it to. Then I'm using the magenta again, so you can see that, and now I'm using that lovely skyy blue, and you can see the variations in those colours. So you're getting a third colour out of these two by having that little well in the middle of the paints. And then here, mixing it in the middle, making that lighter green. I guess if you went more heavily into that yellow, it'd be even lighter. So again, you've got lots of variations that you could do in a short space of time without buying this sort of bright green. I think it's like a poison green by Superstar. The yellow is quite solid. It's not the easiest yellow to mix, this one, but I get there. It's a bit of a drag on the brush, but it doesn't mean you can't get there, because you can. And then obviously you can clean them up at the end. I use my J cloths when they're clean, a little press on the top. Again, if the gap's closed, use a sterile implement to create that gapping effect, so you can happily mix them up again. So yeah, just look, the darker greens coming out of there. So you've got 3 different greens there, greeny and the yellow, sorry. Oh my goodness, that is the wind coming through the windows. That's crazy. Sorry guys, I'm up in my bedroom. I've got to get ready. I've got to go face painting. So these have spread a bit because they're both Superstar, so the gapping's minimal, but I still get the variation in those reds and oranges. So that's that nice rich orange, making it like the bright orange by Superstar. I can't remember which red I've used here. Might be carmine red, I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, and you can see reds are quite hard with the variations. To get the, if you're using lots of reds together, they can just mingle into one. Anyway, and now I'm making this light purple, almost like lavender. So I don't know, I might have shot a little bit there, but I do eventually move this board down when I realise. So I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you can see a touch of that lilac. Now I'm going into the darker purple. It's when you're filming, you get carried away and you don't always realise that you're out of shot. Then that lovely light blue. The blues are always my favourite colours. So there we are, that lovely light blue. Maybe I didn't move it down, I thought I did. Yes, I did, there we go. So I just literally filmed this a few moments ago, but my grandson's here, stayed over the night while his mummy went to see Imelda May in Birmingham. She's fantastic, she's an Irish singer, she's brilliant. She actually sang with Noel Gallagher while they were over there in Dublin. They were caught in the pub. So yeah, and then here, just to show you the other colours in the palette. They're beautiful colours. This one is really nice. You'll see it in a minute coming down. I did this really quickly. As I said, I've got to go face painting today. There we go, lovely colours. They always just go really nice together, don't they? Those stretcher colours. Just bright and just really lovely. And there's the wind again. Sounds like I've got ghosts in the bedroom. Then I turn it the other way. Remember, I turn my palette to the opposite direction when I'm loading with an angled brush to get into good habits. In fact, I even do it with a flat brush so I keep my good habits and don't form any bad ones. It means you load really properly as well. I think if you try loading the other way, you don't get the right load on it sometimes, and then you get disappointed with the paint that's been transferred to the practice board or obviously to the face. So try and do that one. That's another little tip for you. And the good thing with my palettes, they don't move because they're in a substantial case. They don't move around. They stay solid. They don't rock around. They just stay there. Now this colour I love. This is like the dark blues. Now I made this blue myself. I wanted a real inky blue, but it's got hints of purple in it. And I mixed a couple of colours together. I'm a right mixologist, I am. I mix my colours. And I encourage you to do that as well, so you don't keep buying loads of paint that you only might need a little bit of. So try and mix your own, guys. It really does work. Now that lime green, again, that is by Samantha Helen of Essentials. It's nice and creamy, so that's gone on and works well with my other paints as well. I'm one of those, I pick and choose which colours I like from different brands, and there's only certain brands that I'll use. But if they work well, then I'll certainly get them. If I feel like they enhance my palettes, which I'm already happy with, but if they work, then I'll definitely get them. So here, now this purple, I can't remember, it's a compliant one, but it's a neon one. And oh, actually no, I think that's one, a special effects one, and it's a bit blur. It's not as bright as I'd like to be, but I was mixing this palette quite quickly. But if anyone asked me to make them, what I do is when I first tried them and tested them, if there's any paint that I didn't think worked as well in the palettes, then I exchange them for a better one. So I'm always make it work really well for my customers. So say if there's a yellow I put in one of the rainbows and it was like mediocre, then I swap it for another one that I know will work really well. So I always want my customers to be really happy with the selection that I've picked. I like this colour, and I know some people will love it. This is one, it's not my favourite one. I do like it, and it will enhance some of my designs, but I would imagine out of this palette, this would be the one that I would probably use the least. Do like it. I like it when I switch it the other way. Whether it's that yellow, I'm not sure. I do love the yellow. It's it was, I think that was one of the newer yellows, and I can't remember if it was Face Paint Candy or Essentials. I'll have to check because I did write it down, but I haven't got a note of that now. So as you can see, I turned that around because I love the bright colour that way. This colour I really like. I love the purples and the pinks. What makes it work together really well is that white in the middle. And again, I think that purple on the end, I think that was a Party Explosion. Again, it's not my favourite purple, but it works well within this palette. And that one stroke, not the palette. So yeah. And now I'm just going to use these little items that I've created that you're all intrigued about. So as you can see, I just love the idea that you've got that gap in the middle, and then on the job you can remember to think, oh, I can mix that light colour. You know it's going to work well with those two colours because it's they're together. And it just gives you some variations, whether you're using your liner brush to make some lovely, gentle, whimsical swirls and curls and little movements. But equally you can use it with your detail brushes, etc. I just think it gives you more options. And again, you haven't had to buy that paint. You've been able to mix it yourself. I mean, of course, you can mix those two colours together and put that colour in the middle if you want. But I just like the idea that I can change it up. I can make it lighter, I can make it darker on the job. It's just a different idea, a different way of looking things, isn't it? Which is what I try and do with all my students. So that's how I was using all those. But another option as well, when you've got that white in those one strokes as well, or darker colour next to a lighter colour, is you can do an alternative double dipping. Some people probably think, what does she mean by alternative double dipping? Now, I am someone who got rid of all her petal brushes. I wasn't keen on how mine always turned up, and they always looked like very generic to everybody else's. And I like to teach for you all to just grab your own style. So I am using here the very tiny tinter brush by Rosemary & Co. You would look at it and think, oh my goodness, what can you do with that? But oh my god, it just spreads and it's so versatile and it holds loads and loads of paint, just like the others in the range. The big one is horrible in the range. That's why I always say, whilst I like a range, doesn't mean I like all of it, all the series. It's very, very expensive and just ridiculous, but all the others are great. So even though it's like a little flat brush, it just goes to different angles. It's so light on your paints, so easy. It's just like literally a dab of the brush, a tiny twist of the brush that allows you to get great shapes and all sorts. So as you can see here, look how quickly I'm moving, and that's how quick you can move on the job. You don't have to keep reloading all the time. The more pressure you apply, the deeper the colour. And again, I'm using the white here, as you can see. I'm using the white, and I'm just going to dip a little bit in the green because it holds an abundance of water. And there we have it, a little white and green petal. It's almost like, it's just like a no-nonsense brush. It's just, they are just so beautiful. Been using them for years. The one I put in the kit is like, you've got the, I don't use the granddaddy, which is the big one. So then I always call it the daddy brush, then the mummy, and then the brother, and then the little sister. So I have 4 of them that I use. But the one in the kit, the set that I sell is the of course it's the mummy. It has to be the mummy, doesn't it? And it's brilliant. And it allows me to do all my one-stroke faces without the need of a sponge. And of course I do use the 3/4 one as well. But the 1/2 inch is brilliant. But this one is lovely for downsizing and just getting that alternative double dip action going on. You don't spoil your paint, you don't indent them, and as you can see here, you can make them pointed all round. I'm just gone now to a 1/2 inch long angle brush just to show you the 3 colours in action as well. So here we are, just doing this little flower, and then I've just tried to miss, even with the same brush, just hit the white and the purple to put those colours within that rose. So you've got the different variations of colours going on with that quick rose. I said this isn't a tutorial on roses, this is just swatching. So just doing this nice and quickly. As I said, I'm looking at the time now, I'm thinking, oh my God, Sally, you have to get a wriggle on. So yeah, going into the green and yellow and creating these shapes with that, you know, that little area of paint that was missing. I've got that nice yellow and green going on. It hasn't made any difference because I've got that little well in the middle, but what it means is I can change the depth of the colour that I want. It also means then that I can go to one of my detail brushes and go in the middle of that well where I can get the different variations of colour. So, which is what I showed you earlier on in the video. So just going in now with my detail brush, going in that middle, getting that sort of lighter limey green effect, and just creating what I showed you earlier, just to show you what you can achieve. So yeah. So anyway, I'm going to speed up this video because I really do need to go. You get the idea, and now you know what the well in the paints are. Please let me know what you think, what your thoughts are. If it's something that you could do, I'd be really interested to hear. Okay guys, take care.